So today I'm going to talk about my paranormal experience in southern France at Rennes-le-Chateau. I was visiting southern France, the Cathar region, with Lilith Lindsay, Brian Rogers, and some other people I met there on while Lilith was hosting the tour. And while there, we were staying in a kind of hotel cottage area at the foot of Rennes-le-Chateau. Now, one night, Brian and I decided to hike up and see what was going around Rennes-le-Chateau and the neighboring fields. And when we got up the hill towards Rennes-le-Chateau, it's a road path that's surrounded by a bunch of trees. Now we were heading up the path, and about halfway up the path, there was a bench that we sat on and started talking about how we could feel like something was watching us. And we proceeded to walk up the way towards the entrance to Rennes-le-Chateau. And as we were progressing up the path, there was a bunch of noise coming from both sides of the path and the trees that were quite dense at the time. And I had a feeling like it was what I called the guardians of the city. And so we stopped at the gates and talked about how we had an uneasy feeling and respected the feelings, and we turned around and we headed back down the path and visited a little tower building off on its own in a field, and we found what could have been a Roman bath style structure ruins, and got back to our rooms and slept. And the next day we went on a tour, and after the tour and after dinner, Brian and I talked again about what it would be like to see Rennes-le-Chateau at night. And so we hiked up the path again. And the only difference was this time, as we walked up the path to the entrance of Rennes-le-Chateau, there was no sound. So I felt like we had permission to enter the town from the spirits and the energies. And so we went into town, being respectful of the people, being quiet. And we were walking through the streets, and we stopped and we could see strange lights coming out from the hills off in the distance, and we could see what looked like fire coming towards us, like a string of fire, like torch fire of torches. And so we kind of looked at each other and went around, and we circled around the Tour Magdala, where Brian heard something and went to check it out. And when he did that, I had quite an interesting paranormal experience. I turned and I saw a lady in white floating from the bushes through over the path and into the Tour Magdala Chapel and Tour Magdala building. And from where she came from, there was no place she could have came from, because there's no houses on that side and there was no door to enter, so she had to go through the stone walls of the Tour Magdala. And so it was quite an interesting experience, because we had seen, when we visited one of the Cathar castles that had a lady in white spirit there, that they said that legend has it she is there as kind of a announcer of death. And so here I was seeing a lady in white, and in the back of my mind had to think, is this a premonition of death, or am I just witnessing a spirit floating by? And so I didn't speak about it to anybody, didn't tell anybody. And Brian came back up, and as we started walking towards the entrance of the city again from the backside, there were a line of trees in front of us where you could see two red eyes looking at us. And we looked at each other and we were like, hey, let's, head back. Let's go get some sleep. And fortunately, the red eyes didn't follow us. And we never did figure out what the torch lights were, or what the really bright lights at such a late hour behind the mountains were, or the hills, because the city was on the other side and you could see it lit up. But the side we saw that on was, I would say, if Rennes-le-Chateau faced north, it would be on the south and the southwest side. So I have no experience for that, no explanation, but I did see a lady in white float by, and that is a paranormal experience that will stick with me for as long as I can remember. Thank you for listening about my experience in France, and hope you guys have a great day.